reinvented myself, and I'm sitting here now going, okay, and of course I work on cellular work and DNA work and all kinds of stuff because it's all affected by our subconscious.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Absolutely. It's all a part of the matrix, right?
Yep.
That's awesome.
So
That's great.
give us a quick rundown. You can kind of we're going to give you a 30-second spot here for yourself. Give us so for those that are not familiar with it, because this will be recorded and it'll be replayed and replayed.
Okay.
Give us a quick rundown of what exactly Psyche-K is.
Psyche is it's a very simple process once you learn it to help identify what thoughts are holding you back. It's faster than subconscious level because we also deal with the superconscious level. So we always ask for higher guidance when we're muscle testing. So it's not a traditional muscle testing thing. And I've tried many things over the years and still didn't feel whole, still didn't feel complete, still didn't feel peaceful with looking at my past because I had a lot of trauma in my past and I was still resenting people. And it was
Right.
because I hadn't done it on the subconscious level. And once I saw the higher aspect of what I had asked for as a human being here, it totally changed my mind. And I knew I had to become a facilitator.
That's awesome. I heard I looked into Psyche-K, and for people who don't know what Psyche, it's psychological kinesiology is
Yeah.
the extended word of it. In 1996,
Mhm.
and it was through. I don't even know if he was the originator or not, but it was, I mean, he was one of definitely the first pioneers, and it was William, when I always have a hard time, Wissit, I can't remember how to pronounce his last name, but he was a doctor, and he had a great book about it, and I exposed that, and I applied a lot of it through, because I'm a master hypnotherapist, retired, but I applied a lot of it through my practice over the years,
Mhm.
integrating that with neurolinguistic programming and
Yeah.
EFT and a variety of
Yeah.
other things. It's powerful for sure. Yeah, yeah.
Well, I like it because it's fast, and I also have my spirit guides come in to help me,
Cool.
and
Right.
that type of thing. But as I
Cool.
said, it's just so many people just haven't gotten to the stage that they want to get at, as you know, and they want a fast fix, unfortunately, and we know it's not a fast fix.
Yeah, well, in many cases it's not. Doesn't mean it can't be. In many cases it's not, for sure.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But I mean, as I said, down the rabbit hole, my girlfriend and I talk about that all the time because she does psychic work as well,
Mhm.
and we're constantly, trying to help people see the bigger picture. So we're breaking the rules here in Canada, and we're having local meditation groups and stuff like that, which we're not supposed to do. Anyways, we're doing a lot of things we're not supposed to do.
Yeah. We'll mute that part. Where are you where are you in Canada?
Right now, I'm living in Lindsay, Ontario.
Oh, okay, great. I'm out in Vancouver, just outside Vancouver.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. It's good to hear. Yeah, you're definitely in the right place. And
Sure.
if you haven't seen any of our live streams, you got to check us out on Thursdays at 9 a.m.
Okay.
We do. We do all kinds of really, really great topics, and the live streams we talk about. We give the concept of whatever we're focusing on for the first little bit, then we end it with what we call a micro hack, and so we give everybody a specific takeaway after each stream where they can go and actually take that takeaway and actually start to hack the infinity matrix.
Okay.
But yeah, definitely. And so how did you get exposed to this Zoom then? Is it off the biology belief page?
No, it was on Facebook, and it just said see a link, and I always sort of investigate links when they're there, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. As I said, I'm always guided. I always do. If it's meant to be, it's meant to be.
Oh,
That's
that's
great.
fantastic.
That's great.
You
That's
hear that,
awesome.
world? You hear that?
Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah, synchronicity is an amazing thing when you're on purpose, for
It
sure.
really is. And one of something I was going to say about what you had just said is that, where you were talking about, people in general. a lot of people don't know that they're stuck either.
No.
They, this is, it's their normal, and they don't know that they can be better. They don't know that life can be more, can be easier for them. And that's one of the focuses that Gary and I have is that to kind of put some seeds in people's ideas in their minds when we're doing the live streams. They're kind of like, really, is that possible?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, way back when we first started doing this, we talked about it, times in our lives where we would meet with different change experts, and you're talking to them, you're having lunch with them or whatever, just having a conversation, and they'll say something kind of like as a matter of fact, and you're like, what do you mean? What do you mean that can happen? You can do that? Seriously? And then all of a sudden that the expansion starts.
Yeah.
And then you talk to another person, and then that expansion is again, and it's just a constant expansion, which will, in our minds will never end. There's always somebody or something out there that can, we can add to our internal library of knowledge that will constantly expand. And what Gary and I have been working on for the last 10 years is similar, is a process where we've combined so many of these change technologies, and it in itself, has just evolved, and it's just a never-ending expansion, and it's just really, really exciting. And when we talk to people about that and we work with people with it, they're just like, I didn't know that this was possible. That's really the biggest, it's not an obstacle, and it's somewhat of a challenge, is letting people understand, like, listen, this is possible. This does not have to be this way.
Mm-hmm. Well,
at the end of the day, many people don't want to take responsibility for their stuff, right?
Exactly.
And when you show them that they are at choice all the time, it's a hard pill to swallow, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely. Especially those. See, I work with a lot of people that have a trauma.
Mm.
And
yeah.
And that was my hardest pill to swallow, was that I had chosen this for myself. I had sat for 8 years of traditional therapy, and all of a sudden this book appeared, and I went, okay. So then I went back and asked my therapist, and I said, but it says this. And she goes, well, I never read that book, and I borrowed it from her library. And then I went, and I kind of looked at her, and I went, oh. And then I think I lasted 2 or 3 more sessions after that. And I thought, yeah, that she's not in the same place I am, because I identified with exactly what she, when you read something and it flows and it just goes down within you.
Right.
That's what happened. And
that was our actual topic last week, Janet, was, the day that your world stood still. Where something happens, there's this pivotal moment where everything from that point forward just is different. Right. What was the book that you got exposed to?
Louise Hay, You Can Heal Your Life.
Oh, great.
Oh, okay.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Right at the very beginning, right? Yeah. When I was like, oh my God.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Good. We love stories like that.
Well, I mean, it's simple. And I mean, I'd gone to many of her conferences, and I mean, and then it started me. It just started. And it wasn't that I hadn't read other books before. It wasn't that I hadn't done other things before. I was a Reiki master at that point. I was a Shaheen master. I'd done all these different things, but I was still going to a therapist because there was still things I had to work out. But I always knew something wasn't right. I always knew what wasn't in the right place, but it was what I needed to be at that point now. And it was for me to be able to look over at her bookcase and see that book and ask if I could borrow it. So I was in the right place at the right time.
Well, and I think that's when you're on the path, right? And you're open up for those synchronicities, those things happen at the right timing. Many times we have, we get told, and we're conditioned into thinking that, we have to plan it out in our head, and it has to show up that way, and the conscious mind has to be involved in this whole experience. the conscious mind is so limited in its resources. I mean, to depend on it, oh my gosh, and so you just because your conscious mind might think you want that change or ready for that change or need that change, your unconscious knows that you need you need more fertilizer.
Good way to put it.
Right.
Yes.
And life just tends to have a lot of fertilizer. It's How you doing, Hector?
I'm doing good.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Good to see you today, buddy.
Enjoying the conversation.
Yeah.
Enjoying the conversation.
That's great.
So lucky to have you guys here.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Well, thank you. Appreciate that.
I was really interested in the topic. I think you said down the rabbit hole. Was it choosing? What was the topic for this week?
We didn't really have it. We're
This
just
week
kind
we kind of left it kind of
run
open.
with it. Yeah.
We kind of left the topic this week open.
Okay.
But if nobody had an idea, then we were going to talk about the duality of technology.
Mm.
And,
I do want to mention just one thing, and it's over the talks that we've had, guys,
sure.
where noticing, I think it came back on one thing that you said maybe 2 weeks ago, Ross, where you have thoughts, right? And if they're bad thoughts or whatever, I would always try not to even think of it. And you said, how would you feel if you were ignored?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So it made me think that maybe we shouldn't, just dismiss thoughts like that. And this week I had something really interesting that happened. Is that I had this one thing that I really didn't want to look at. It was a problem. Didn't want to look at it, putting it off. But once I focused on it, once I looked at it, I paid attention to what was actually facing me, whatever fear it was, it all went away.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was just so cool. When you look at something that's really scaring you or whatever, if you just acknowledge it and look at it, it kind of just.
Well, you can think of that thought as
okay.
You can think of that thought as a shadow, and your focus on it is a light.
Yeah.
And you shine that light into a shadow, and the shadow's going to go away. That what was causing that shadow was a teeny tiny little mouse when you thought it was just this giant monster. And it really, really brings the reality of what it is, or what your mind was creating out of it. And there was a post that I did last week, something, and it was and it was about when you come upon an obstacle, the best way is to go through it.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you go up and over and around and all this kind of stuff, it's still there. And those obstacles, a lot of people were kind of like, well, I mean, if I see a car accident, I'm not going to drive through the car accident. I was like, okay, now you're just being kind of ridiculous. You're really missing the point of this, because especially if it's an internal obstacle, it'll still be there. But when you shine that light on it, it's actually, you can just step right through it.
That's the philosophy on ayahuasca. That
here we
you
go
take
again.
this,
He's
but
going
you're
right
really
back to the
facing your
ayahuasca
future.
again.
He's just jealous, Gare.
Yeah, right.
Right? He's just jealous. We're gonna make you take it, Ross. We're gonna.
Yeah.
Okay, so what were you saying?
We're gonna put it in your coffee.
Yeah, really. So
we're gonna put it in your coffee, right?
Oh my God, yeah. Well, I can make tea out of it. This is tea today, so this is that could be a really good tea. So how are you putting those two together? The ayahuasca to what? Open up to kind of open
to the fear, to going through the fear.
Right.
In ayahuasca, you have no choice, right? You take it and you go through the fear. You see what the fear is, and then you go through it. So that's what I'm saying, Ross. Similar to what you were saying, that philosophy that you have to go through it. Once you go through it, you're done with it.
Right.
You
Well,
know.
most fear
So
in all, if you think about it, most fear is just us living in the future. It's just our imagination, most of it.
or the past.
And,
Yeah.
so when you get that imagination under control, it's just like, well, this isn't really happening. This is just me thinking it could happen, or it might happen, or, this is a possibility that it could happen. That's where, examining that whatever that fear is, if you take that to the point where you're talking about the fear of failure. It's like, well, have you failed? Well, no. Well, what would happen if you failed? Well, this would happen. Is that really that bad? But a person, we also want to justify our fears too. Well, it could turn into this, and it could turn into this, it could turn, but everything is, it could, what if? Most fear is based that way. And you're right. In ayahuasca, in my opinion, or as I'm, what I've read about it, will basically just like, no, it's really not that big of a thing, because you're so much into the now.
And I think it's because I get where, again, it's somewhat semantic, but it's the challenge that people have with this going through it means that there has to be struggle.
Right. Exactly.
Right. And there doesn't have to be if you accept it as a part of your reality.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so, when these obstacles, for example, show up, to accept it as, and shift or alter the meaning you attach to it, puts you in a more empowering, choiceful place. Right. So one of our teachers says that, if the people keep running into a wall and they keep saying, well, why do I keep running into the wall? Well, maybe the wall is telling you go a different direction to get what you need. Maybe a different direction is the path of least resistance. Right. Maybe that getting into that wall, and I use this in workshops all the time, where there's you've got your goal or objective on this side, then you're over here, and you put these obstacles for these learning experiences along the way. And when you come up along one, you think that your conscious mind thinks that, oh, their only way is to go from A to B is straight line. Well, no, just because it's a straight line doesn't mean it's the easiest path. It means it's the straightest path, but doesn't mean it's the easiest. Right? And so to see that, okay, well, maybe there's ways over this, under this, maybe there's through this, maybe there's become absorbing this, so this becomes nothing, and then a space opens up. Maybe you get in here and you we talked about one of the other streams, the way to bust the wall down easily is you poke so many holes in it that all you need to do is tap it and it's gone. So there's so many different ways, but I think when we tell people that you got to go through something, they immediately have this idea that they've got to just it's the grind their way through, and that's not necessarily it. That's more of a conditioned thought pattern or belief system.
Yeah, or maybe even if we move over 2 feet, there's actually a door on that wall.
Yeah, maybe the flashlight is on the wrong spot where you can see the opening,
Exactly.
right? Yeah, for sure.
Can I shift it a little bit to pain? Pain, I always thought was some kind of form of fear. At least that's what I felt, and I try to use the focusing as something. So I have this pain, and I look at it. I don't judge it. I just look at it, and it gets better. Just like looking at a problem, you look at it, it kind of dissolves. And I wanted to get your take on that.
Is it
Do you understand what
are you talking a mental pain or a physical pain?
Physical pain, physical.
Yeah, I think all pain in to some degree is your soul, spirit, self, whatever you want to call it, um, saying you need to put attention on something.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
There's something you need to put attention on, and that attention will continue to knock on your door until and knocking on your door means increasing the pain, right? It until you put the appropriate attention on it, that your spirit self is looking to explore, grow, learn from, evolve to whatever it is that
Yes.
particular pain or discomfort shows up from. Would you say that's what you feel, Janet?
Yes, because I was a deep tissue massage therapist before a lot of this started, and I would have to sometimes help people up on the table, and I would look at them and I'd say, "Why did you wait for so long?" "Oh, I'm strong and I can take pain."
Yeah.
And then they would expect me to fix them in
Yeah.
one session, and I'm going, "I can't do it in one session, guys. Come on," right? And so, it was very interesting, and I eventually had to stop because I would pick up. I'm very intuitive and whatever, so I would pick up past lives and all kinds of other stuff when I was working on people's bodies, was as soon as I entered their field. But what I say, when you say this, I always ask myself a question when I get pain. I ask my body, because I'm talking to my body all the time,
Yeah.
is this mine or is it somebody else's?
Great question.
And then what I ask is, what do I need to know?
Nice.
And that's how I've been at, because I've gone through a lot of ascension symptoms. And I mean, one day I got up and I couldn't even walk, and I was limping, and I thought, well, I was fine yesterday, so what happened? And I knew that energy was moving through me and getting stuck in my knee. So I asked, and I just had to let it be, ask what was preventing me, why was I afraid of moving forward? And I just formulated a bunch of questions. But that's because I've learned how to ask my body what it's trying to tell me.
That's beautiful.
Mhm.
Beautiful. I love that. And I do a similar process. And again, being in the field of hypnotherapy, I ask my unconscious mind. I say, okay, unconscious
Yeah.
mind. So similar idea. And I love the question. That's a great distinction. Is this mine or someone else's? I hadn't thought about
Yeah.
posing it
That's
that
very
way.
good.
And that and the reason you would ask that, for those listening and those that aren't, don't really get the importance of that. The reason you would ask that is because um, uh, the ancient Hawaiian kahunas used to have, they have this concept called an aka cord. And when I did my my huna training, 99, I think it was 2099, I think it was, this just opened up my eyes to all kinds of stuff, especially as someone in the field of helping in therapy and working with others and helping them grow. Is what happens is when you become in contact with another person or thing, you create this ethereal cord or connection to it. And the stronger you have a connection with that thing, person, or whatever, the stronger that cord is, and that ethereal cord stays with you until you cut the cord.
Yes.
And so, for example, let's say, Hector, you and I met at a conference somewhere. We had lunch and we had this great conversation, and we just created a cool bond, right? Well, with that bond, that aka cord remains with us. So you get your cord connected to me, I get my cord connected to you. As you go through life, right, the stronger our connection is, when things happen on your end of the aka cord, it comes down the cord and can affect me.
Oh.
Right? And so you have all these different connections that you have. And so, and this is why, if, you can be in a place where you all of a sudden just feel a certain way, and then you get a phone call from a family member and something's going on. Well, that's a strong aka cord, right? And so asking the question, is pain mine or someone else, is a beautiful, beautiful distinction in that. I really love that. Thanks for that.
Yeah, what Gary is saying is really,
What's the difference between?
if you break this down into quantum science, that's simply quantum entanglement.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
That's
What's the difference between sympathy pain?
Between what?
If you have someone, sympathy pain?
well, it depends really, to a certain degree.
Is it
I
the same as,
my first answer to sympathy pain would just simply be your mirror neurons um, kicking in. You see it, somebody gets kicked in the groin. Another guy gets, he's playing soccer, and all of a sudden he just gets a foot right in, or a knee into the groin. You bend over. You're like, oh, geez, because your mirror neurons just kicked in. It's like, oh, I remember what that feels like, and it just, boom. Mirror neurons are designed biologically for us to learn, and they can be used in a number of different ways. But if we go off of what Janet was saying, I mean, then she's actually connected to somebody because she has a higher technique of being able to connect with others on a different plane, on a different level.
the reason I was asking, my son-in-law had gotten COVID. And as soon as I heard about it, my chest started hurting. It was so crazy,
Yeah,
Mhm.
and I think this, the mirror neurons definitely is the scientific side of it. When
Right.
I used to do my when I used to train hypnotherapists, one of the key things we would teach is your ability to get into rapport with someone else.
Mhm.
And one of the things that as a therapist you got to be careful with is being too much in rapport with someone, or not being able to disconnect from that rapport after they've gone. Because you can actually start to take on some of their sicknesses, right? You can take on some of their mental, emotional, or physical sicknesses because you're too much in rapport with them when you're trying to help them. And their immersion into that pain, discomfort, or negativity is stronger than your immersion into whatever you're experiencing, and so it kind of can take over. And I think that even when you think of, the rapport aspect of it is really what mirror neurons is about. It's where we're getting in sync with that other, so we tap into that oneness of all, right? Which ultimately I believe what rapport is all about, right? You're tapping into the oneness of all. And in doing so, in order to relate with that other person, you have to take on some of those characteristics, some of those experiences to be able to relate with them, right? And so that's where you're getting those sympathy pains or those kinds of things. So yeah, and again, it's a form of that connection, that Aka chord, the strength of that Aka chord, and that energy flow back and forth.
Yep.
The key is, as therapists, what we want to do is we want to build up, and I think that's why we are so attracted to the light of growth. The key is to build up so much resources, tools, skills, abilities, really fill our backpack, if you will, of more resources than our clients or our friends or families have in their resources to remain stuck. Right? Because then we can find ways around it. We can reframe things. We can adjust. We can shift our energy. We can disconnect when we need to. So, yeah, I think I would even blame like things like the common cold and its ability to go where it is in the realm of, hey, you're just in rapport. You're so much in rapport that, and at an unconscious level, you're not aware that rapport is aligning you up with that sickness, right? I had an ability because so before hypnosis I used to teach martial arts as well, so kung fu. So we used to and so I was around kids all the time with sickness, this sickness, and I can't remember the last time I had a cold. I mean, I'm I'm pretty good with maintaining my health and being in a healthy state. And in those scenarios, when you have all these other kids, you know, they come in, the whole, you know, half the class is sniffling away, and there's, you know, and you got to be in there, you got to be all hands on with them. And I never got sick. And people always wonder, well, how is that possible? What are you doing? And yes, my lifestyle was that of you know, that supported that as well. But part of it was I got really quick in my hypnosis training that, hey, there's a time to connect and there's a time to disconnect. Right? And in the time to connect is when I'm helping them and I really want to really make an impact. And then when I'm done with that, I can step out and not have to keep any of that stuff with me. Right? But still care about the kids, care about the students and family and stuff. I can still care about them, but I don't have to take on their sickness to care about them. Right?
How do you do that, Gary? How do you disconnect?
Say it again.
Just scissors.
Yeah, so disconnect means so there's a variety of different ways and techniques, and really it's about so the way they teach you in the HUNA training was what you do is you on a regular practice, what you do is you visualize the people, all the things, the people, the objects, things that you that come to mind as far as connections that you have, right? And then you bring it to this stage, if you will, in your imagination. And then on the stage, you send love to all those things, and you receive love, and you send forgiveness and you receive forgiveness. And then once that cycle is complete, then what you do is you imagine cutting the ethereal cords. You imagine these lights, the way that I do it is I imagine these light portals connecting me to all these things. And then when I've sent love and I've received love, when I've sent forgiveness and I've received forgiveness, I imagine this big blade just coming and cutting and refreshing everything. So I can go back to that person new instead of holding on to old thoughts, old ideas, old patterns, old belief systems. Right? There's a variety of other techniques, but that just happens to be the one that I learned early back in the day and still use today.
Janet, what's your technique for, because you said you're very empathic?
Yes, and so I had to acknowledge the aspect of my 7 energetic fields and see where it was connected. And I also knew that anybody that came to me was part of the lesson that I needed to understand.
100%.
Because the very first time I'd ever done did a deep tissue massage after class, I didn't realize that I hadn't disconnected from this person. I was so intent in helping this person that I absorbed all her pain.
Yeah.
And it was just like, oh my God. And I got up and I thought, oh my God. And I said, all of a sudden my head kind of went, oh, I absorbed all her stuff because I didn't clear my energetic field. As a Reiki master, we're always supposed to clear our energetic field, running our hands down outside the aspect of our body and put it into a bucket of water. I had not done that because I had not disconnected.
Yeah.
And so I've been always using everything that I've learned, like you guys, to help disconnect. But in Psyche-K, we just ask that this connection, this surrogation is released, and we just release it. We just do it on the higher aspect. So you know, it's happened many times.
When you get connected with your clients, well, let's say when you were doing your massage therapy, did you go through a process to connect, or is it just in your ability? Do you just connect automatically?
Well, I would always do a bit of an asking before I went in, and because remember, I'm also entering their auric field.
Mm-hmm.
So I would talk to them a little bit, put on a certain type of music. I'm also a crystal therapist, so I would put crystals underneath the bed. So there was different things that I would do because it was more of an intuitive massage to help people. But I would go into their auric field and then ask if I could, I would then start on touching their bodies and things like that. So I guess it is different because not everybody does that. I've gone to massage therapists and they don't do that. And so I never really connected with them on the way that I needed to connect with.
Right.
So that was just what I did. But I've always been very cognizant because I did energy work back in 1999. I became a Reiki master. So I understood energy, how it works, how we get connected, the etheric cords that we hold on to people and things like that. So I would do a lot of that stuff, and I would literally pull out. I would do energetic work as I was working on their backs or their frozen shoulders or things like that, and that's what I would do. It was just it's just what I did. I didn't even think about it. It just happened. I just knew that I had to do this for people.
Mm-hmm.
That's great.
So it was, as I said, so energetic fields, I a lot of times people don't understand that they keep repeating the same stories because they haven't cleared the
Right.
victimization of their auric
Yeah.
fields.
So when you said earlier that like you wake up and you're limping,
Yeah.
you're saying that because you never cut your connection with a particular client,
Well,
or that
it wasn't
somehow while you were
necessarily.
sleeping you actually just reached out and attached to someone.
Well, I think also too, I do a lot of meditation before I go before I go to sleep, and I ask for anything that needed to be anything that I need to know. Please allow me to do it, because I know I don't stay in my body at night. I know I go off and help the world, as I say. And what there was one night, and I just went, what is it? How can I help humanity? And that's when I woke up with this knee and this foot, and I'm going. I mean, the other day I exercise every morning, and I went, okay, this is crazy. I mean, I literally couldn't even bend over, and I realized that I had picked up on the collective consciousness aspect of the fear that was coming in from people, because this started right at before when this pandemic started, and there was
Okay.
fear coming in. And of course, here I am trying to transmute fear, realizing that, okay, and of course, so I just, realized it took me a couple of days to understand it, but everybody said, oh, go to the doctor, go to the doctor. And I went and I went, do I need to go to the doctor? They go, no, it's okay. It'll clear in a couple of days. But I trust myself. I trust myself. And I think that's something that I've learned how to do over the years. But a lot of people don't. They run to the doctor right away. Well, I've never put big stores on doctors. I haven't been to a doctor in 7 years, because I've been able to talk to my body, and when I get the answers, and I have books that I've been studying over the years. Your body's telling you love yourself.
Right.
Or am I not loving myself? And that's what I do.
That's great. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So the lady that wrote the book, Your Body's Telling You Love Yourself, is actually Canadian, and she worked for 20 years over in Europe, because the Canadians, when she was around doing it, weren't willing to look at it. So she got her notoriety over in Europe, and she actually had to start her own publishing company, because in Quebec they didn't want to publish her book.
Yep.
So I mean, it just took them a while to figure it out.
That's great. And what was her name?
Her name is Lise Bourbeau, and she has a wonderful book that I've been using all the time. Your Body's Telling You Love Yourself. And there's another book that's called Your Body Speaks Your Mind by Deb Shapiro, which is an excellent book as well. And the nice thing I liked about Lise Bourbeau was the fact that she goes probably 5 steps further than Louise Hay does. And she brings you into the mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical aspect. And she gives you, she has, the book covers over 1,500 diseases.
What's the name of that?
It's called Your Body's Telling You Love Yourself. And it's, it was given, well, I went out to see a session. I went out to somebody's session, and she had it sitting on her table, and I went, oh my God. And I actually, I had her come to Whitby when I was living in Whitby years ago. And I had her come in and do a series of workshops with me with people around the area. She's probably in her 70s now. She's probably not, she's passed it on to her daughter, I think. But she was a marvelous woman, and I felt very anxious when I was having dinner with her and her husband before the session, because I'd be thinking, okay, because she would talk about, it's how you eat, how you talk, how you dance, how you walk, how you interact with people. She would tell you all this stuff. And then she's got another wonderful book that I recommended to many of my clients. Um, you know, if you feel like you're going around in circles with your healing, you're probably not looking in the right place.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that was another book that I had, that I've used for many, many years. But as I said, these are just two things that I've used, and I've just expanded into something else than that. But again, it's most people don't understand how important self-love is.
Totally.
No, they don't. You're
Have
very right.
no idea how encompassing that is.
Well,
And
so I mean, it comes back to again that self-love is the ultimate rapport. We're so focused on
exactly.
rapporting with everybody else out there
Yeah.
that that rapport inside doesn't, and that's where the because like you, I since 13 or 14 years old, every night I do a hypnotic meditative type process and go through this relationship with my other than conscious mind, and that's been consistent my entire life, and I think that's a missing piece. We're not taught that, hey, that instead of struggling with what's going on inside, well, find out, become friends with it, find out what's going on, and
Yeah.
your ally, right? And in one of our live streams we talked about making the unknown your friend, and that's it. It's the unconscious mind. Because it's unknown, people are afraid to, and all the media says, oh, you don't want to tap into your unconscious mind. Why not? It's like I mean, it's because otherwise you're, in my opinion, you're walking around in the dark all the time.
Yeah. But I
And
mean, our school system is not for empowerment at this point.
absolutely
It
not.
hasn't been for empowerment for years. So maybe this has been a disruption in the Canadian aspect where the kids can't go to school,
Yeah.
but we've got to see the silver lining behind that.
Absolutely. I think that there's there's opportunity in everything that shows up, and when my daughter couldn't go to school, I was like, fine, I'm totally down with that. And I'm fortunate to be in a position where I work from home, so I could
Yes.
do that. And it gave me a great opportunity to really kind of open up her mind to different ways of thinking, and exposing her to things at rates that I believe she's capable of, as opposed to what the school system plugs her into. And she shined through it. She loves it. And then when school came back, they could go back to school, she kept asking me, well, when are we going to do some homeschooling stuff? I'm like, because she misses that thriving, right? And allowing her to kind of push her to her capacity and explore that realm, right?
Yeah.
And it's again, I the school system is a topic we've touched on a few times here, and requires its own series of rabbit holes.
Exactly. No, I totally agree. There's some different problems, as we would say.
Yeah, my daughter raises both of her girls in the experiential type of realm, and they don't go to school, and it's the and I think Denmark just adapted it for the entire school system, where the child determines what they're going to study. So this is my interest. I'm interested in computers. And then they, so because they already have that interest, okay, then it becomes their idea to learn more about it. And then you just say, okay, well, I'm going to give you all the information. An example, one of my granddaughters had just became interested in dinosaurs. And so we're going to the museum. They went on a fossil dig. They went in, I live in Washington, in Seattle. They went into central Washington where there's a lot of fossil digs. She went on a fossil dig, and they just kept giving her information until basically she's like, okay, I think I've learned enough about this. This is my new interest.
Yeah.
And obviously you're teaching them the math and English and such. But overall though, learning becomes exciting.
Yes.
And it's, you know, and it's done very, very well. I mean, she's way, way ahead of most of the children her age. You can see that when she's playing with them.
Mhm.
She's just kind of more, she's a little more mature, and she's just, you know, more of, she is, you know, more, she has kind of that alpha personality anyhow. But it's amazing. It's amazing to watch and to see the difference.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah, it's when our first daughter was born, we looked into, because we lived in Ontario at the time, and we looked into like Waldorf schools, and there's a few different schools, private school sectors out there that are kind of exploring those things. And Waldorf did that, where the kids determined the curriculum, and there was variations of it too. And there was also a school in Toronto where at the end of the school year, the kids got to choose which teachers stayed and which didn't.
Woo.
really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Which I thought brilliant. At the time, it was just too far for us to commute to get our, or put our daughter there, but I loved that idea.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah, and so I mean, the teachers they had were pretty awesome, but you know, but they were still had to show up every day as their full self, right? So
Wow, I love that.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, it was called the Beach School. I don't know if they still have it, but it was right on the beach in Toronto, and we lived too far to commute every day to that, but it was a great concept. Yeah. Yeah, well, we got another few minutes. I did want to kind of, because some of this kind of taps into what we're talking about, is it remind me of a metaphor of a metaphorical story I heard when I was in my NLP training, is you know, of a fish who swam around asking every sea creature that he met, where's the great ocean I keep hearing about? It, and it's and you know, we're very much like fish, right? When you think of it that way, right?
Yes.
If you think about it, you know, it's hard not to look at a newborn baby without thinking, what an incredible miracle, right? I just got my first granddaughter, and you see this little being and you think, oh, what a miracle, right? But when was the last time you looked at an adult and had that same thought? Right? And then you say, okay, well, why not? Why don't we ask that same, why don't we have that same reverence to the adults in our lives that we are including ourselves on a daily basis? Because every one of us was a baby at some point. So where did the miracle change? It's like, where did it stop?
Yeah.
Because if a baby is a miracle, then as an adult, we're even much more of a miracle, because we survived a whole crap ton of stuff to get to be where we are. Right? But rarely, I think more and more, we get so distracted by all these other things, by, you know, what's pumped up by media, what's pumped up by our society, that it rarely occurs for the average person. It rarely occurs for us to think this way, because we're so used to seeing people that we're so used to seeing it becomes, it doesn't become as novel, I guess is the word. Because when you see a baby, there's a novelty to it, right? But when we see all these adults around, there's less novelty around it, so we don't reflect on them the same way, right? You know, or even, you know, when you think about it, you know, when again, this miracle that we call life, right? This experience of this infinity matrix. You know, when you think about it, when you drop something, right? And I remember I was watching some documentary the other day on quantum physics or something, or reality. I can't remember what it was, but well, when you drop something, like for example, a spoon, right? And it falls to the floor, we don't even question that, right? We don't even question that experience of it going from there to there, and you know, why couldn't it, in theory, right? Why couldn't it have remained floating in the air? Because we don't see anything pulling it down. Or why couldn't it float upwards? right? Yes, we have this thing called gravity that we've all agreed to. I get that, but
Which is an assumption.
exactly, right?
Yes, but that's in the collective consciousness too, as well.
Exactly, right? You know, because you know, if we look at it, there's no strings connecting to the earth,
Right?
connecting that earth to the spoon to pull it automatically, instantly at a certain speed, right? You know, and you know, so why don't we pause in these moments where miracles are happening on a regular basis? And look at it as, hey, that's a miracle for it to go from that version of reality to that version of reality, and for me to see the transition all the way down, right? Because moment by moment it's hitting another reality, right? We have to realize that we're creating moment by moment an infinite amount of realities we're going through to create some kind of consistency, and that's a miracle.
Yeah, but we're not told to expect miracles.
No, right? Because again, we get untrained from that. Because if you think of it,
Exactly.
children as they grow up, they know, right? They already
Your
know.
curiosity.
Yeah, they got these asking questions. Every time you ask them one question, there's another why. There's, you know, it generates another why. And then, well, how does that happen? You know, and we were all there once, but something shifted. And yes, I think the school system has something to do with it. Yes, I think our parents' conditioning has something to do with it. Yes, I think that society has something to do with it. You know, and yes, I think the fear of the unknown at some point becomes greater than the curiosity of it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right, and so I think what we need to do is to let that child out again, you know, let that child out from within, let that philosopher within us emerge. And I think that's where this rabbit hole concept comes, is where's that philosopher? How do we have those types of conversations? How do we engage in that? You know, and to realize what we need now is the out of the ordinary thought patterns.
Yeah.
Right? How do we stop, even if it's for a few moments, how do we step out of the ordinary conditioned habits? You know, and we take that cold plunge into the great deep ocean of thought.
You know,
Right?
there's a term that's been going around, you know, especially last year, that, you know, we're moving into the new normal. And because things are going to be different, and or are different, or whatever the case may be. And if we look at just that terminology, a couple questions come to mind. Whose normal is it? Okay. And why does it have to be normal? Okay. Why can't we call it the new expansion? Why can't we
Yes.
take advantage of this scenario that has happened to the globe and such, and say, great, this is a great launching point. And that's actually kind of what Gary and I did. I mean, we've been working on Infinity for years and years and years and years, and we saw what was going on around us. So we're like, I think the world needs us right now. And that was kind of how it worked. We're just like, I think we need to launch this now. Whether we're ready or not, it doesn't matter. We need to launch this now, because
Yeah.
the mindset of the planet,
Yes.
and what the messaging and the narrative that was coming out in the media and such is kind of like, the term I will use is disturbing.
Yeah.
Like, I don't like the way that this is transpiring at this particular point. And I'm not even really talking about the virus and all that kind of stuff. As far as that I'm talking about people saying, well, you know, everything has just changed, and there's going to be something new, you know, coming. And it's just like, well,
There's always something new coming, moment by moment. Everything's always,
exactly,
yeah, wake up is different. What the heck?
exactly. So
Yeah. Well,
it was more conditioned terminology that I was hearing.
yeah.
And you know, and again, it started pretty quick. It's like, things aren't going to be everything be the same again. This is going to be the new normal. It's like, no, 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 no.
Well, the thing is, though.
And I'm all about change. I'm all about
Yes.
expansion. I'm all about, no. Why are you creating a different baseline?
Yeah.
You know, for everybody to go, okay, well, now this is how I'm going to be. It's just like, no, 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 no.
Yeah.
No, we want to expand. We want to grow. We want to be curious again.
Hmm.
And as Gary said, that's one of the reasons why we came up with the rabbit hole concept for these streams, is because, you know, we learned as much from you as you may or may not learn from us. It's just like, we're just curious,
Yeah.
and we want different people's opinions and ideas.
Yeah. And the thing is, for me, I've always thought, well, I wasn't particularly keen on what people considered normal, because I've been a big advocate of nature. And I just would go. So the new normal, as far as I'm concerned, maybe we will have to go into self-farming and more preservation and eating local foods and things like that, which is better for our bodies anyway. So it's almost like there's a pullback on what we know we should be doing or could be doing. I don't should myself, but it's just, I never liked the normalcy of it, because I've been making my own products for years. I was the weirdo. I made my own cleaning products because I knew there was toxins in it. I went to the school board 25 years ago to tell them to clean up their act when they were cleaning their schools and their portables, and they laughed me out of existence. And everybody's doing it now. It's like, okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Because people are realizing there's toxins everywhere, right? And it was just anyways, my kids got over it and whatever. I mean, they were very upset with me because I wouldn't let buy certain products and certain things, but they got over it.
Yeah. Yeah, you're definitely talking to the right crowd.
Yeah. For sure.
But I mean, I mean, I am now in a situation where I choose a grocery store where I don't get hassled about going in with a mask on, and I always make sure that I'm smiling when I'm walking around, and people are looking at me like it's crazy, and I don't know whether it's because they're actually seeing my face smiling or the fact that I don't have a mask, and I don't really care. At least they're looking and going, oh, there's someone that's doing something different.
Well, you're setting precedents. What you're doing is, and beautiful, because I do this as well. You're setting precedents for, hey, it's okay.
Exactly.
You're making it okay to be you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Unique.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's phenomenal.
All right. Well, that's our hour for this.
Okay.
Thanks for joining us, Janet. It's great to have you on, and Hector, as usual. And having you.
We are here every Friday.
Every Friday. Okay.
Friday. And so same Zoom link to register and jump in. And we also have our Thursdays. Janet, you got to check out our Hacking the Infinity Matrix stuff, because you're going to love it.
Wow. I've been hacking into the Matrix for a while. I've been doing galactic stuff for a long time.
Sounds like
good.
That's
long time. I've also activated my Lumerian star code. I've done a lot of stuff. I'm way out there, as they say.
Well, Janet, let's do this. Why don't you join us on the rabbit hole next week?
Okay.
And that'll be the topic.
Okay, well, yeah, sure. I mean, that's, as I said, I'm there because I talk to the galactics. I do galactic. I help people understand that we're much bigger than this little ball that we're on.
That's awesome.
Because they have to. I mean, we have to understand that there's a bigger reality happening here. And if they can just dare step out of what we call the matrix and the other stuff, and just I do walks in the morning. My sister can't come out, and so I started doing I would film my walks in the morning, and I'd say, look, you can start any time. It doesn't have to start on a Monday. It can start on a Thursday. Your week can start on a Thursday. It can start any time. It doesn't matter. It's a construct that we don't understand. We can start any time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's bizarre how people are set into these
it's a rut.
These pre-established cycles that they think they have to fit into, which not always natural cycles. And
exactly.
The Monday to Sunday thing is one of those cycle formats. And a good example of that is, I do, and I know Ross does too, I do intermittent fasting all the time. Like
me too. I do the same thing.
I've been doing fasting for probably a good 6 years now, easily. And about it, they're always shocked where, sometimes because of circumstance or situation, I eat in a time frame where I normally wouldn't. And they're like, well, aren't you fat? I'm like, yeah, I'll just start tomorrow. It's like, I'll come back on the intermittent fasting. The flexibility of it works to my schedule, not the other.
Exactly.
Right.
I know, but I mean, as I said, it's a different construct constantly, and it's like, no, it's okay.
Right? I keep reminding them, no, I set the rules for my life, not my
Right.
food, not anybody else. So yeah, so that's pretty cool. We'd look forward to having you more frequently on, Janet, and we'll
Let some of my friends know too, because
please
they're
do.
always looking for different things, and there's also connecting consciousness too that I belong to.
nice.
That's another one that's very good, and they've got connections all over Canada, right? All over the world, actually.
So is
all
that a
over the
Facebook
place.
group? Is that
Connecting consciousness was created by Simon Ward to help people connect their consciousness ideas, and we've got the money groups and the healer groups and the financial reset groups and everything else like that. So he's got quite a big following, and he's got it quite well organized now. It took a while. There was a lot of hiccups at the beginning of it, but they have regular weekly meditations that thousands of people are on. It's kind of an interesting concept.
well, okay? So that's the Facebook page. I see it. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, there's very interesting people. They've got very interesting topics.
Great.
And then there's also Dr. Christian Northrup. It also has a group too, and what she's doing is she's connecting people in the group, and they're then forming their own groups, and then they're sending in pictures of everybody that they've met through the group, which is what we're trying to do. Is we're trying to connect people.
Yeah, that's cool.
Right.
Yeah.
That's cool. Way to work with what's showing up for us and make it put it in our advantage, right? That's awesome.
Exactly. Yeah.
Way cool. All right.
Yeah.
Cool. All right.
And I'm also with a quantum very small. Yeah.
So are you on our you're on our Facebook page then, right? You're on the Infinity Matrix or the
I guess so. I don't know. I just saw a link come up, and it was like, I don't know where this came from. Sometimes I have things pop up on my screen because my guides know that I need to be there. So I have no idea how I got you guys.
Okay. I was going to say, if you could send us some links so either Ross and I, some links to the these things that you just talked about, because they're good things for us to kind of.
Yeah, sure, I will.
So I think.
Yeah, because I think it would be. Yeah.
But so if you're on our Biology Belief page, if that's where you saw it, or on the Infinite Matrix group.
I think I probably saw it in the Infinite Matrix group, because Biology of Belief is something I'm always, it could have been from that too. I don't know. I'll have to go back and find out where I found you guys.
Okay.
But when I just see an active link, I think, okay, and if I get in, I get in. If I don't, I don't. So as I said, what's meant to be is meant to
be. Are you in Lindsay, Ontario?
Oh yeah, I see her now.
There
you are on the page. I just added a friend request for you.
Yeah, okay. But as I said, and I'm also been asked to go into a very small group, and we're a bunch of quantum healers, and we're going to be making some protocols to help people be able to get ready to accept themselves into the med beds that are coming out.
Cool. Wow. Yeah, well, let's. There's a lot for us to talk about and cover. So, share some of those links. I friend requested.
I will.
So accept it and look forward to.
Yeah, I can definitely send you that stuff. So obviously, this was a connection that was meant to be.
Absolutely.
There we go. That's what we like.
Yep.
All right, sounds good. We're gonna sign off for this week, and we'll speak to you guys on the next stream.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Fantastic. Hector, take care.